Is it here?
Refresh.
Refresh. Refresh. And in the videos, what?
It should say we're live.
Or do I press live?
No, you don't do anything. Just refresh. See it?
No, I don't see it, man. Do you see it?
Yeah, you're live. Why is yours not refreshing? Let's come out. I'm shaking, bro.
There you go.
What's it called?
There it
Tops.
is. Tops Media Center.
No, I'm just going to send it to other people.
Okay, let's share this one, man. Let me share mine. Hi, guys. Good afternoon. We're here live from TMC Tops Media Center. We're actually doing our test broadcast from Studio 2 with Kuya Magic. I don't know if you can see him in the screen. He's actually to the left side of our special speaker, our special host for today. He actually hosts, a weekly show in some parts of Cebu. It's called Lamdag. He's, of course, one of Cebu's royal families, if you will, Mr. Mimo Osmena. I just called you royal family of Cebu.
I don't even like to be called sir.
How's everything? Kamusta na, sir?
Nanasad, sir.
Well, my brother actually, my brother hates it when Filipinos do that. Because it's kind of patronizing. You know what I mean? Like, because people in the United States, they don't call each other sir, right? They call them by their first names, right?
Sometimes, it's usually, like, I always hear people say it's for respect.
Yeah.
And, so I don't mind, but, when we have a relationship already, no need to use sir. We're supposed to be equal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
But do you think nindot na siya, sir? Like, see,
See?
it's
Yeah,
automatic.
automatic.
What do you think? Is that a good thing for us, taga Cebu?
Well,
we always have a kind of respect, especially if it's a person that you barely know.
Yeah, but you can avoid the problem of choosing whether you sir or ma'am, right? That's an issue now with the woke community. So if you stop using the title, then it's fine. Traditionally, globally, there's so many cultures that have, in fact, complicated titles, right? You have my lord, and if you're a knight, they call you sir. In Spain, it was señor or here señorito, and
Very interesting. Katong naitabo ni at ang ako ang schoolmate sa UP si Jude Bacalso ba?
Yeah.
Kato bitong
It was trending on the internet, so everybody was talking about it.
Kanang inana, sir, ba, like, my theory about that is kita man gud diri sa Pilipinas, so we're so in tune with what's happening in the West and the United States, and I feel like it's a kind of we just got that from watching social media from the West. Or is something like that an outrage ngayon na bitaw? Is that really organic? Is it really that there's real outrage when people do that?
It's called the swing of the pendulum. Basically, when there's a certain issue that everybody leans towards, it can build up, and then eventually the pendulum swings, and you have the opposite. There was equal rights once upon a time between sexes, and it became a very big issue. And then because it was an issue, and so women were given the rights to vote and more privilege, but it went extreme. And so when you reach the extreme, then you have pushback from the other side, or from both sides, actually, depending on your own personal position. And so that's normal. And the key there, malamdagan gani ka, is learn to let go and just ignore it, because those are not real problems. We create 90% of our problems, which are not real. We just need to let go.
Correct, sir. But my question is, that's not really a thing here in Cebu, bitaw. I mean, that's a kind of a U.S. thing, a Western thing.
Yeah, but trending because of social media, people start making it an issue, and they like to write on the issue
Yeah,
just
yeah.
for the fun.
Yeah, correct.
In fact, here, mga to kag mga restaurant, tawagon kag ma'am sir, bisag usara, ikaw ra usa, di ba? Okay, mahadlok sila, ma'am sir. Thank you, ma'am sir.
So kana sir, kanang Mimo, I'm gonna try to refrain from saying sir, ha. Kana siya Mimo, when people start, let's say, the feminist movement, right?
Yeah.
Kind of moment na ikuan karon nga girl power, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, in the Philippines, we've only had one or two female presidents. In the United States, zero, right?
So far.
So far, right?
Yeah.
Although Kamala looks like she could potentially be the first ever American president that is female. Ang ako pangutana here, sir, is kana siyang pro-female feminist movement is really a correction of a patriarchal society. Am I correct?
Correct. That's correct. I mean, it's not a correct. Yeah, it is a correction of something that was unfair. Because women were taken advantage of for the longest time. They didn't have the same rights, and in fact, many places they're still saying it's still an issue.
Sure, pero
some countries.
Pero
yeah.
kanang correction, sir, na tendency sa mo overcorrect sa overcorrect sa, di ba?
Yeah, it
Sobrang
could be masobrahan siya o niya hantod nga moabot ang panahon nga there will be a backfire. So it's like if you get a pendulum and you swing it, after a while, because of gravity and friction, it will eventually stop. And that's where we will end up. There are some things that are no longer an issue here. But right now, those hot topics, they go extreme. Yeah, balik na sad, extreme na sad. Antod nga, eventually, ana naman ang mga tao niya, mawara man na siya.
Masuya jud ko sa concert because I'm a huge kaning observer of US politics. At masuya jud ko magtanaw nila dito kay di ba, it's really a battle between the left and the right, right? Conservatism and liberalism. That's really the sort of the Democrats are the kind of liberals, and the conservatives are the Republicans, and then of course most presidents who win. Who end up winning are those that are very in the middle, right?
In the middle,
Centrist,
because you have a big population that's also middle.
Yeah.
So even if you're a Republican, because maybe you like the conservative tax position, where they don't tax everybody all the time, then you have the liberals who are saying, well, we should be more socialistic, and you have people in between. So they listen really. They focus on what platforms the candidates are providing, and then make their decision based on that. But then there was a study saying that the decision to elect a president is almost like a 12-year-old, because they base their decisions on one debate rather than really understanding an individual. Here it's even worse, right? Maybe here it's 5 years old.
Ang akong masuyaan sa America, sir, at least you know who you're voting for, right? At least they're kind of you're choosing
plataforma.
You're choosing between a conservative outlook and a liberal platform, right?
Yeah.
Because the line in the sand, if you will, is really abortion rights, for example, right? The trickiest
That's
issue.
one of the issues.
One of the main issues. Good, but at least you know what they're about. Sa Pilipinas ba, mabutar ka, wala kay kalibutan.
Yeah,
What is this guy about? I just like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Sir, what do you think? Is this something the Philippines needs to eventually learn to do to be able to have
we used to have
better elections, or no, this is fine by user nga wala gyud tay klaro nga plataporma?
Well, in the past there was, and eventually
unsa man to una, sir?
What was that? There was the Nationalista Party,
Which was
and
what was their kind of
nationalism. So it's about the Philippines independence, because that was when that started, we were still a colony of the United States.
Okay.
And then there was the liberal wing of the Nationalista Party, which eventually split into liberal. But then over time, there was no clear platform, and this is the party list system is supposed to be minority groups, so they do have platforms. PROMD has a platform, and but most of the other parties, people just use the party as a vehicle of convenience.
So do you think we will ever? Is this the right term? Even nga mo mature ta as a nation, and
that's the key word. Mature na to.
Which is in comparison to the United States. We're a relatively new republic, right? We're how old are we? A little over 100 years old, right?
1946.
So less than
so less than 100.
Yeah. But the United States has been a republic for over 100 years, right?
1776.
Yeah, so 200 years,
yeah.
300 years. So more or less, we're still relatively young.
Yeah, the U.S. is also relatively young.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Europe, but then Europe also republics like France went through the revolution, you know. So yeah, most of the countries now are the system's pretty young. You know, the UK is quite old. Their system hasn't changed, although it's still over time. It still has slowly they start changing. They want to even abolish the House of Lords and just maintain the House of Commons to be a real democracy, but they still have that.
Didn't the Philippines adopt the American Constitution?
Initially, yes. Initially, we followed everything, the American system. So, ang atong pananglitan, ang presidente, sa una, duha man to ka term, 4-year, just the same as the US. But they changed it and they said, no, the president should have only one term.
But 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years longer so that they can di na sila mo focus sila sa ilang buhaton.
In one term.
Ang kanang duha ka term, ang primerong term, ang ilang buhaton nga ma-re-elect lang sila, ma-extend nila additional 4. So it's better to have just one, right?
Yeah. But we adapted pretty much.
We're very good at adapting. In fact, even if you only have one term, mangita pagpaagi how to extend it.
So is it safe to say, sir, because we adopted the American Constitution in the beginning, and of course we have refurbished it, if you will, several times. But is it safe to say, sir, that's one of the reasons why the United States and the Philippines are kind of similar in the way that our societies work?
Yes, because in 1898, the Americans basically took over the country and control of the country. No, so we didn't get our independence until 1946. Yeah, hapit na nahimog state sa United States. There were movements to make the Philippines a state. The problem is, og nahimo tag state, mas daghang atong electoral votes than California, New York, and Texas combined. So every president elected would have been Filipino. Plus we vote a day ahead. So di gyud sila kadawat, ana. So
okay.
so they gave us independence. Plus they didn't want to pay for the war damage.
Very interesting.
So our system, our education system, ang atong political system, ang atong constitution. In fact, it's still in our constitution that if the United States goes to war, the Philippines is automatically at war with that country because naa sa atong constitution.
Still until
now.
Wow. Okay.
Until now.
Interesting.
So
speaking of wars, baga grabe na makaron ka init ang issue ron sa China, right? The islands. What do you call those islands? The Spratly Islands, right? And then there's almost like daily conflicts there, daily magpapasirit sila og mga hosts and all that stuff.
Bangga pa gani.
Magbinanggaay sila. I heard this being uttered in some corners of Cebu, Sir Banga, or the Philippines, Banga. The next presidential election will be a proxy war between China versus the United States.
Possible.
True story?
It's possible, yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, you have to look at it from the political point of view. The U.S. cannot give up strategic in that. And China is adamant about them getting Taiwan back because it's part of China, as they claim. And the Taiwanese don't want to be part of mainland China. So that's the conflict in there. And we are strategically located. So that's true. I expect there will be some influence. But bottom line, it's ang mga Pinoy gihapon. No? Kita gihapon. Kita mo pili. But,
so when you say proxy war, ang pasabot na, sir, is that ang financial backing will be China will be supporting one particular candidate and the other will be the United States, right?
Well, there's only so much that you can legally do. You can endorse and that's it. Because the moment muhata na sila kwarta, that's illegal. You know, if you receive funds from a foreign country, that's illegal. It's not allowed in our politics. But kaya ba naman ka mga tao din yung mangitag yung paagi, no? You can go through a local, let's say there's a subsidiary or something owned by Filipinos, mo donate sila, legal na, no?
Okay.
So
sa lang buhaton is they just work on the internet, right? Kaning mga mag-hack sila or something like that, right?
Well, there are so many channels manggod, no? Kaniadto usa naman na kinahanglan mo suroy yung ka face to face gyud ka sa mga tao. Karon social media naman, internet naman, no? So lahi na tutong niaging election, grabe gyud ang ilang gasto sa internet. Yan, napakay ka ng mga trolls o kung sa padihan, yung mga issue, pagawas, nga positive, negative, niya. Di sa ni mo may baan, kinsay nagpadangat sa mga issue, kinsay naghimo sa mga issue, ug tinuod ba or dili. Nga, karon gani, doon na mga deep fake, nga grabe yun, murag yung tinuod, di ba?
Di ka kasakop.
So
Grabe
there
yun.
was actually a meeting called by Comelec. This was about a month ago, and we had to send a representative to attend because they wanted to talk about deep fakes. And how there are no laws preventing it. So how do we police it ourselves, and how do we work together to avoid it? I guess you can't. You know, I mean, there are always criminals. No?
Pero kung answer ba, I'm just curious ba, culturally ba, like, we're Asians, right? And then we're geographically, we're closer to China, right? And culturally also, like, ang atong itsura, ang atong mga kinaiya, mga nuances of society are usually similar kita sa mga Indonesians, mga Malaysians, mga Asians, but we're the most Americanized Asian
Correct.
country
Correct.
in Asia, right?
Correct.
So my question is, are we better off? Seriously, if we're able to turn back the hands of time and adopt a constitution and build our country from maybe perhaps a colonizer, would we have been better off being colonized by another nation and adopt their constitution?
We would have been better off not being colonized by anybody.
Really? You think so?
I think so.
Huh?
I
Really?
think so. We should have developed our own culture. I mean, you can argue it both ways, and then you can look at it depending on your objective. If you say you want to be a rich country and rich people, if you're talking financial or you're talking cultural, right?
Cultural, yeah.
So culturally, if we were not colonized, then we would have our own independent culture. We had our own independent language once upon a time. You know, not language, written language. No, it's in our money now. Bapahin, is it?
Pero murag madugay ta og maayo na mimosa kay kaning we have to start from scratch, right? For example, all the technologies that we learned from the Spaniards, from the Americans, from the Japanese, murag na-adapt nato, natudluan ta nilang dali-dali. So murag na shortcut ang process. But
Well,
if we have to start from scratch, mas dugay ta maka-adapt.
No, but what if we came up with our own inventions? What if we came up with our own technology? I mean, look at all these countries. I mean, there was once upon a time the Dutch were a major world power.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, so times change. We might invent something in the Philippines. Let's say we invent 0-point energy, and therefore it makes fossil fuel obsolete na. So ang tanang mga nasod ganahan na sila nga mupalit sa atong 0-point energy kay libre naman ya unsa may. But we don't encourage people to basically invent here. Kopya lang.
Ngano man na, sir? Ngano man na? Cultural.
Yeah, it's cultural. It's cultural, and you have to look at administration. You know, people are asking me before. It's like, oh, do you want to be? If you were to be a cabinet secretary, what position would you pick? I said science and technology. He said there's nothing there. Nobody wants that. I said that's because you don't know what to do. You know? I said, wala, sayang. You know, I was trying to get into aviation, designing our own aircraft here in the Philippines. This was back in the 90s, and we tested our design by my friend that we built in Metro Manila. They wouldn't give us permits to test fly it. Eventually, the Navy allowed us to fly. We demonstrated it, so we were ahead of PADC in launching the plane. So, and then I couldn't get a registration for it. So, they don't encourage experimentation here. So, palit na lang sa gawas.
Pero they're saying ba nga most of you measure man daw the innovativeness if you want to call it that of a nation based on the applied patents, correct? Is that a good measure of how innovative a nation is, sir?
Well, innovation is not just in patents. You know, it's an interesting topic because I'm planning to do a paper on innovation. I do have a lecture that I give called How to Think Outside of the Box. You know, to encourage our people here how to think outside of the box. So it doesn't have to be inventing something. It can be a process. You know, if you have a company, if you have a business, you say, oh, we need to innovate. Kaya ang buhaton sa uban, kopyahon naman. Kung ikakopya, mas nindot pang ila.
But even if it's a process, mapatent magyapon na, di ba?
Not necessarily. Like if you have a strategy, look at Coca-Cola. They never patented their formula because they don't want anybody to copy it.
They never patented because they
They don't want people to copy it. But then,
so it's still a deep dark secret.
well, yeah, but now technology, you just pass it through a laboratory and you'll figure out what it is. But then I guess the process also is important. No?
My point being, sir, sa mga patents ba, because I think I had this discussion with a friend of mine nga, ang kinabag-an sa mga patents karon sa kalibutan are from China, from Asia. Gamay na lang kayo sa West bitaw. What is this? Is this a sign that there's a kind of shift in innovation or pareha ra gyapon?
Like I said, innovation is not just in one area. So if you're talking about scientific innovation, I think you have Western countries that have basically saturated technology. It's very hard to come up with something new now. Okay, grabe, kadaghan na siya, kada adlaw na sa bag-o niya. If you go from 0 to 100, it's much easier than to go from 1 million to 1 million, 1 million or 2 million. It's harder to go double.
But you can't apply for a global patent if naimbento na diba? So these are kind of new things, right?
And there are specialist lawyers who focus on how to do global patents.
Okay.
But then there are some countries that don't honor that patent either. I mean, you're saying China now has a lot of patents, but the China does a lot. Everybody says copy, Everybody makes copies in China. So it's something difficult. I don't know if they honor patents. I understand, like, I was in the furniture industry and all they had to do was change the dimensions. They changed, I think, 5 dimensions. So if your chair is 18 inches, they make it 18.5. Di na masud's patent. Kaya 18.5.
Pwede sana nimo ma-patent.
Yeah. If you have a design and then you patent it, but the patent's specific. It's just like a topic I had in my show the other day. They were asking about illegal drugs, right? And I said, well, the drug is only illegal when the government makes a law saying it's no longer legal. But there are so many drugs that are legal, and everything basically that's chemical that you intake is a drug. Caffeine is a drug. We drink coffee every day. Nicotine is a drug. Alcohol is a drug. But these are all legal drugs, and we have different restrictions. Now, the moment they say, this particular opium used to be legal in the Philippines, now it's illegal. So the government has to come up with the law. In the US, they're very specific as to the chemical structure. And that's why you say innovation, patent. So somebody invents designer drug. They change the chemical formula.
For it to be legal.
It's legal initially until they figure it out, and then they come up with a law to make it illegal because klaro mang specification, because there are some like this kanang medicine for the colds. They use that to make shampoo because it contains ephedrine. And so a little bit of chemical change, it becomes a psychotropic or whatever it is drug, and if it's changed again in formula, it's a good antihistamine.
Speaking of illegal drugs, sir, like in Thailand, a few of my friends were in Thailand, and marijuana is completely and totally legal. In many parts of the world, legal na ang marijuana, be it medical or recreational. My question is, sir, Mimo, like, unsa may pananaw nimo diri sa Pilipinas? Are we ever going to legalize marijuana? And do you think it's soon rather than later?
I think eventually it will be legalized. Studies have shown that it doesn't have the kind of effects that people thought. It's just as bad as alcohol, and some people say it's even better than alcohol. And we have one drug here that's really abused, that's causing a lot of issues for a lot of people, and I'm a victim of that too, and that's sugar.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Sugar is one of the chocolate, soft drink.
Sugar is the enemy, right?
Very bad. Very bad. Causes. I mean, maybe when you're young, your body can still tolerate it, but as you start aging, it starts to become a serious drug. They say it causes cancer, causes diabetes, or kidney failure, liver failure, and then heart failure, and also because of the sugar. It's legal.
You know what, sir? I'm a very curious person, and I could ask you questions for the entire day. But let's give our listeners or viewers a chance to ask. Kung namoy mga pangutana diha, I am with Mimo Osmena. He's the host of a show called Lamdag. Ang iyang buhaton na nga show ha sa I think in some parts of Cebu, nga dili madunggan dito sa Cebu City. Naay mga pangutana ang mga listeners unya tubago niya as best he can. So ako nag-dominate karon sa mga pangutana kay ako may naadiri, pero kung naamoy pangutana ato nang tukion.
Atong ipahayag unsa ipasabot sa Lamdag.
Bitaw, what is Lamdag, sir? Unsa mo ginang Lamdag?
Lamdag means enlightenment. Kaya na may tubag sa pangutana.
Yeah, okay.
Unya do na klaro nga pahayag nga masabtan gyud niya malamdagan sila sa ilang pangutana. So it's not just will the drug be legal or not? I say, wait. What do you mean by drugs, ha? Okay, daghang magkaig mga drugs. Na mga legal nga drugs. O, so kanang drug o alcohol. So, below 21, illegal na siya.
Okay. Very interesting. So, kana bang sugar? You mentioned sugar.
Yeah, sugar.
Diba? Sugar.
Yeah.
I'm very curious, Mimo ba, kay, I help with I do the groceries every now and then, right?
Yeah.
Unya, dili ko 100% sure bitaw nga makatrust sa label, sa ingredients, and all of that stuff. Kinsa may nagmonitor sa ato ang mga
FDA.
mga produkto diri sa Cebu or sa Pilipinas nga walay makalusot nga kaning hausyaw nga produkto or na something bad, something toxic and all of that stuff. How do we know for sure nga wala tagi-ilad or ang atong nakitaan sa box or sa lata sakto gyud na siya? How do you know?
Bisag makita nimo sa lata, wasa ka kibaw mayo ba na para nimo? Kay butang Manila,
Yeah.
sugar.
No,
Usually,
I'm not just talking about sugar.
no,
I'm
I'm
talking
as a sample. Ang number one ingredient, ang pinakadaghan mo ilang unahon. So tubig ani say water. Then the second is sugar. It's a soft drink ano na, tubig niya sugar. Okay? But you don't know if sugar is good or bad. They'll say aspartame. What is aspartame? Is it good or is it bad?
So you have to do your research.
So, they put it all there now. If it's supposed to be poisonous, you're not supposed to take it. Now, there are some poisons that you have to take, but in certain doses, so mo na kinahanglan nagreseta gikan sa doktor. So, tagaan kag legal drugs or prescribed drugs. So, mupalit ka ng why prescription mahimo na illegal, like opiates. Diba, gikan sa opium, it's addictive, it can damage you, but at certain amounts, it can help with manage pain. So, but it has to be prescribed by doctor niya. Tarong sa ang prescription, dili kay recreational.
So kana mga produkto sa grocery kanang sakto gyud na ilang nasa ilang label unya dili kita wa gyud makalusot ang nga produkto nga
Usay makalusot.
kaning bate or dili sakto ang iyang gibutang sa iyang label or na toxin or makahilo and all of that stuff. Yeah, how can we trust?
We can't. We cannot.
Really?
Yes, because they can mention the correct chemistry based the contents, but there are just so many combinations of different chemicals nga di gyud nimo mahibaw-an. Bisag ang FDA mismo, sila mismo, bisag ang US FDA mismo, kada tuig na sa bago, like they're saying MSG, wa may problema ang MSG kasi una grabe kay ang MSG and it was just a wives' tale. Yeah, MSG is fine. It's monosodium glutamate. Glutamine we produce in our own body, and sodium is salt which
So
we eat.
how did MSG get such a bad rap?
Well, because somebody just said it's bad, I get a headache. There were no studies done to show the effect, and it just went around. It's like a mother's tale. Like when they say, "Oh, ay na pagawas ang mga bata sa kabii kay they're used to what did my parents used to say, radiation or lead or something." But those are
Kanang MSG as early as late as a month ago. I overheard somebody once saying and. We were eating in a Chinese restaurant. Nalipong ko tungod sa MSG.
yeah. But then you check sometimes walay MSG.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Oh, kanang magic sarap, daghang man nag MSG. Ang mga luto daghang MSG. Wa may labad sa So, psychological.
kanang pag demonize ba sa MSG ba? Purti na nang dugaya, murag lisod na kina ibali ba? Lisod na kina usbon ang sa pangunahono sa mga tao. In fact, I think Ajinomoto is
they were the first ones
trying to make an effort to really can help improve the image of MSG, right?
Yeah. Well, umami provides the umami flavor. There are other ways to do it. There's so many products that have natural
Correct.
MSG.
Pero kanang mga studies, sir ba, mga research bitaw? Mga research ba? That's Kuya Magic. Mga research ba, like, to study whether MSG is good or bad and all of that stuff, right? Usually, kaning mga research man good are done outside of the Philippines, right?
Correct.
Usually sa Amerika, sa Europe and all of that stuff. So we rarely study and research for anything here in this country. I'm wondering, is that a correct kaning assessment, sir? Nga dili kita Mimo research and mangupya lang tas upang research, or
Way kwarta.
is that really a
It's
funding thing?
expensive. Yes.
Really?
It's very expensive. To develop drugs takes billions of dollars. So many companies, they just buy, a licensing patent and produce the drugs here.
Okay.
Or they buy it from outside.
Okay.
Yeah, kanang bago pa gani tungod kay ni gasto na silang pila ka billion, mahal. And then after mo expire ang patent, after 25 years, mukalit na lagbarato. So there are many life-saving drugs that in the beginning mahal kayo. Like they're saying now they're coming.
I'm not even talking about creating a new drug. I'm just talking about, let's say, MSG
Yeah,
lang, for example.
yeah,
MSG
yeah,
lang bang,
yeah.
ganahan lang ko may bao nga, let's say, for example, nga, maayo ba ni sa Pilipino ang kaning MSG?
Yeah.
What,
Well,
ano,
I'll give you another example. Rice. There's so many studies that says rice is bad for you. Are we going to stop? Are they going to do the study here? Do you think somebody will spend money to research if rice is bad for Filipinos? Magkusi-kusi ka na, ibulsa na nila kwarta.
so kanang mga na-agenda sa produkto, for example, kanang sugar, right?
Yeah.
Nakanungog ko itong unang, grabe ko kay funding ang mga
Yes, until now.
the sugar growers
Yeah.
to make sure that they don't demonize sugar. In fact, ang number one yun pinakangilad nga butang kuno sa ato ang lawas kuno is fat man, iba fat.
Yeah, now no. Now they're saying
but as it turns out, sugar is actually worse, right?
yeah, well, sugar is what makes the fat bad.
Yeah.
So if you don't eat sugar, you can eat all the fat you want.
So kaning mga big industries sir, mag-fund yun na sila og campaigns to
Of course.
make sure that number one, research about this topic doesn't get done, or they can influence
Selective. Do their own research. Selective.
So, kanang mga butang nga dagko sir, kanang mga korporasyon, kanang mga butang nga daghan kay nag-control nga sapian kay tanan. Let's say oil, for example.
Yeah.
We really have to be skeptical about it all the time. Is that
You,
correct?
you have to do your own research and understand. Kinahanglan malamdagan gyud ka. Because don't get me wrong, I love sugar. I'm addicted to sugar. It's a real problem. But I'm not against it. But I'm saying it's really bad. So that's your decision now whether you're going to eat sugar or not. So it's my decision. Well, maybe I'll cut down. Maybe I'll drink, diet drinks. But then they're saying diet drinks are also bad for you. I don't know if it's the sugar companies who spend for studies saying diet drinks are bad for you. But then it's the same soft drink companies that make the sugar drink and the non-sugar drink, the sugar-free, di ba?
Pero atong gusto rin diri sugar, right? Pero I'm talking about any industry ba?
That's right.
Nga-
Any industry, mo gina. You have to protect your own. People will always protect their own. Even two people, you'll have if somebody says something bad about you, you'll create your own response to that. Right?
Very interesting.
Human nature.
So,
Daw
Ansa,
ang mga tao daw man ta. That's our nature, So it's how to reach the point where we're enlightened already when we become I guess when we become compassionate and say no, this is what it is. But we can only teach so much. People are still free to do what they want, right? I know sugar's bad. I still take sugar. I cannot give up chocolates.
yeah, tell me about it, man. Mangita jud og chocolate kanang
Or rice.
70% or 80% kaning pure cacao,
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's better for you. 80, 90 for pait ang kayo.
But I regularly drink Coke Zero, right? That's also not good, right? But if you had to choose the lesser evil, but this is personal questions, right? Which is better, real sugar or aspartame and all of these new sweeteners?
It depends on you personally on what your sugar intake is. Because if you don't have any consumption of sugar at all, then one soft drink won't make that big a deal. But if you have 1 cup of rice, that's like having 1 Coke of sugar. So one can of Coke.
Yeah.
So if you give up your rice, you can drink Coke.
Niingon mo sila sir nga mayo kuno kay si Pacquiao kay rice kuno gikaon niya. Kuan na myth na siya or someone.
No, he likes chicken.
Okay.
Native chicken, one ay ang paborito.
Mo na ganahan ni Pacquiao di.
Mo kita ni kaon og rice. I know chicken. Grabe siya mo kaon og chicken. Di siya mo kaon og baboy.
Really si Pacquiao?
Yeah, he won't eat pork.
Very interesting. And you actually know him personally, right? Because I think he was in Cebu many times,
He,
right?
he was my presidential candidate
Okay.
under PROMDI.
Okay, but very interesting choice, right?
He was here in Taps. I
Yeah.
have pictures of him here.
Yeah. What a guy. So after he ran for president, do you think dapat na siya oban nga plano pa or mora to siya? Tanaw nimo.
He's running for Senate.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. Oh boy.
Well, his heart's in the right place.
Mhm.
It's his team is a little let's say young or I guess still in their early stages. They need a lot to learn.
kanang heart in the right place ba? Usually kanang mga kandidato makaingon ta nga mga buutan gina sila pero or more or less like you said their heart is in the right place but usually magud diba it's the people that they surround themselves
That's right.
with, right?
It's that and the people around them don't want them to succeed.
What do you mean?
Well, because there people. How do I say this in a more
Less politically charged
Yeah.
way.
oh, ang mga kawatan dili ganahan og limpyo nga tao. Di ba? Kaya di na sila kakawat. Because he was even saying, if I win, I'll put all the corrupt people in jail. I said, man, maghimo na lang kag usa ka hotel niya. Diha ta mo puyo, tibok, nasod, naasgawas kay mo na iprisohan. I said, because, you have to define what you mean by corruption. And I don't think the main problem of the country is corruption. It's a secondary problem. The main problem is there's lack of execution. Kaya, wa nila nabuhat. Ngano, kay bulsa mang kwarta. Well, that's secondary. But the primary is wa nabuhat. Because from a business point of view, if you're a businessman, bahala mo mahal, basta mahuman og dali.
Kanang corruption ba? I've been a political observer here in the Philippines for such a long time, ever since I was a kid. Dugay na kanang corruption nga.
It's everywhere. From the moment nga bata pa ka, tagaan kag premyo og makakuha kag kanang honor or something.
As a political issue, Mimo ba? Like,
Yeah.
dugay na ginastanan. I think magud convenient kay ng corruption kay if you accuse somebody of being a corrupt leader, more it's automatically translatable to the person listening ba because ako unta ng kwarta gikawat nimo. So murag sayon ka na siya as a political accusation to
Correct.
opponent mo.
Correct.
Convenient kayo ba? But is it really that bad?
No, that's what I said. Corruption, you have to define. When you say corruption, it sounds bad.
Mhm.
But if you say lobby, in the US, that's legal. Unsa nang lobbying? Nay grupo nga mutabang nimo kay istoryahon nila ang politician, ya tagaan muhatag silang donation, all that. Basta if it's less than 5%, legal na siya. Isn't that the same? But it's legal. It's called lobbying. So
We have no lobbying here in the Philippines.
well, here we have lobbying, but then they call it corruption.
No, but what I mean, what a lobbyist, but wala
Dili siya formal.
di siya
No,
formal.
pero doon na kay kaila. Oh, tawga si mayor, ang US mayor nga ang project ihatag din ni nato.
Why didn't we ever adapt kanang lobbying like
Well, because there's no new system. Why change it? Why complicate it?
okay.
But again, it goes back to the most important thing is execution. If they get things done, even if you're like a businessman, and I've just recently, my brother was somebody proposed to build his unit. He said, if you finish it in half the time, I'll pay 30% more. So is that corruption? Now you're paying 30% more? That's an incentive, right? And it doesn't matter if you pay more, basta mahuman na. So our problem is lack of execution. So we have, ang atong budget is 6 trillion this year. So kanang 6 trillion, kanusa na ma-implement, kanusa mahuman mga project. Daghan pa nag-agion.
Kanang mga defined as corruption in government ba usually is not or is legal in the private sector, right? In business, right?
Yeah,
some of them are, di ba?
Well, it depends, no? Because
Kanang commission, for example, right? Commission.
Commission. Let's say corporation. If you're an employee of the corporation, unya, you make a deal with the supplier to give to your boss. To sell your product to the company, and the company buys your product. Kini employee mangumission ni siya. That's supposed to be immoral. What's the word? Non-ethical?
Mangomission sa yang boss unsa man?
Di, mangumission siya sa nagbaligya sa produkto.
So
supposed to be empleyado man na siya.
Nasa kasabutan silbing private.
Let's say like doon ako'y I'm buying soft drinks and then my purchaser goes there and goes to the company. So nga rin ako paliton ng soft drinks pero tagay kog 5%. That's corruption. No? That's you can fire the employee for that if he bought the product more expensive. But if he found a cheaper source, and even if he makes a commission on that, I don't care because it's cheaper for me, But he's under my payroll. But depends on his salary. Kaning atong mga tao manggod ubos kay sweldo. Diha nagsugod ang corruption ni sa atong nasod, ang sweldo sa mga government official. Kay numnong pa panahon nga ang mga pulis mudawat niya gihuna-huna na pila may sweldo sa pulis. Unsao man na nila panginabuhi nga kagamay sa ilang sweldo, ang ilang mga anak di kakaon. So if your children are starving,
yan na mo offer nimo kwarta mo dawat man ka kay unsa may unahon nimo.
Correct.
Nga mosunod ka sa balaod or gutom ang imo, matay ang imong mga anak, di ba?
correct.
So I mean, unsa may tuyo sa mga balaod nga matabang sa mga tawo nga mamatay akong anak tungod sa balaod.
Correct.
So, I mean, sometimes we don't see the big picture.
Exactly.
We don't look at it that way.
Yeah,
So we don't understand what unsa gyud hinungdan sa mga problema. It's like, we talk about the problems in Cebu City. Everybody knows what the problem is. And all the solutions are takip butas. It's Band-Aid approach. Oh, too much traffic. Oh, we remove the cars or we do this or we do... No, the real problem is the population is growing because we're focused in doing everything in Cebu City. Why not ibahin-bahin nato, ibutang nato dito sa Midilin, dito sa Santander, which is the platform of PROMDI, right? Devolution.
You're I was a big fan of your dad, Lito Osmena, right? And he had a vision of Cebu unlike any other vision. And I think he made the campaign katong Siboom, right? Siboom ba to? Siboom?
No, Siboom happened because of his campaign. His campaign was Probinsya Muna.
Probinsya Muna, but I think...
But Cebu was still Probinsya then.
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what your dad's vision was, and does it still hold true now?
Well, the vision is always to look at the big picture. Not looking for short-term solutions, but looking at long-term planning. Where are we going to be 20 years from now, 30 years from now? Doesn't matter if we're going to be around. Many of us, 50 years from now, we won't be around. Maybe we will. Don't know. Technology, right? And so at that time, Cebu was a backward, one of the smaller cities. Metro Manila was a center, and it was so centric. It was a result of all these colonial system, diba? So from there, we're saying Probinsya Muna. But since he was governor of Cebu, his focus was Cebu. And then you had a rapid growth in Cebu. We were doing 24% GDP growth, no? But now Cebu City is saturated. Look at Ayala used to be a golf course. IT Park was the airport. Karon puno na kayo, taas na kayong mga building, puno na kayong tao. Mo na dagan na mga sakyanan, kay dandato na mga tao, nakapalit na mga auto.
So this was part of your dad's vision to...
No, he didn't foresee it this far in the future. He just wanted to get it where it was. We're talking about 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago. So he wanted, when he ran for president, he wanted to replicate what he did for Cebu, to do it with the rest of the country, so that kining 115 million or 118 million na ron nga mga tao
population na to
would be spread out. And because if you spread it out, then you have less cars saturated, you have more water supply, so di na problemang tubig, garbage becomes less of a problem because it's not too many people, too difficult to manage. We used to look at European countries. The maximum efficiency was between 500,000 for critical mass to maximum of 2 million. Once it goes beyond 2 million, lisod na kayo i-manage.
So man ko hisgot na sa akong mahaginahan mim kanang pupuyo na sa probinsya ba, because we have family in Barili, right, in Dakit, and then ang problema gid dito sa kay layo kayo ang hospital.
Yeah.
Healthcare is really bad in the province.
So the government should focus on this is symbol I use. This is power, water, communications, and transportation and health. If you have those four anywhere in the country, di na silang puyo din eh. Why? Let's say Barili. Nay kuryente, why problema? Nay tubig, why problema? Nay internet, okay na. Yeah, transportation, dool ang airport, layo pa pang kayong airport, pero butangan na itong bagong airport nga dool. Nya na ang healthcare. Ano nga ripata sa Cebu City? And if you do all this, even businesses will move there kan mas barato pang yuta. So mabalhin sila dito. So ang katong nangitag trabaho din sa Cebu City, di na sila mo sa Cebu City kana na may trabaho sa ilang lugar niya, mas barato pang mga butang dito. That's the long-term solution because our population growth has slowed down.
I overheard this being uttered a few months ago. The problem with progress is naagay mabilin. Lisod kayo ng progress nga kani bitong inclusive bitaw. Naagay mabiyaan. In fact, kaning murag mo na yung pinaka biggest challenge gid ba to have a progress that's inclusive. How do you make progress inclusive ba? Unsa man how do you
Well,
where do you begin to talk about that topic?
nay daghan ng utana do na bay nasod nga way pobre.
Mm.
And the answer actually is, well, do na, but kana sila dili na nato matawag og tarong yung nasod, no? It's Vatican, of course.
Yeah.
But everywhere you go, you were in the US
yeah,
lately.
yeah,
There are
yeah.
beggars in the street. There are homeless. So bisag asa ka, there's always a bottom
Mm.
and there's always a top. And the key there is how unsa ka baga ang middle class. So what you want to do is to be able to increase the size of the middle class. There will be people who will always be left in the bottom. You know, those who don't have the abilities or don't have the kanang dili kugihan, dili mangitag paagi, they're late tapulan. You know, there's like
O
white
kuwang sa eskwela, kuwang education.
yes, education is one of the other issues. And the big issue now for education is the children, the new generation are so malnourished that they cannot mentally keep up or cope with the educational system. You know, so that's really a big problem here. And so ang solution na dili kay usa lang. You know, so mangutana ka, how do we help the poor here? How do we do this? How do we dili ang tubag dili kay school lang. Well, how about health? Okay, if they don't get the proper nutrients, dili mo develop ang ilang utak, so maglisod sila. Ang ilang IQ ubos kayo kay wa sila, you know. And then dili lang diha ang ilang supply sa well, how about the supply of food? How about this? So ang tubag ana is very complicated. It's not something that dali kay tubagon, no. But if you look at it from a general point of view, the ideal solution to that is that the government sets up a social support system. You make it such a way that the rich can get richer. Kay kinsa may mo kanang who will hire the people to work? O why tagiya sa corporation? Now, we encourage and we help kanang mga gagmay, kanang mga small, mga micro, nga padak-an na sila. So tabangon na to sila. The middle class, you know, we have all these handouts that we're doing. We're all helping the poor and all that. But the productive ones are the middle class. We should help them because they're the ones who will really push up the economy. And what you do is you do the social programs for the ones below. But, you know, I believe in the philosophy of teach a man to fish rather than giving them a fish, no? And ang atong solution din mga tag dole out, you know, in form of rice or whatever, hatag lang. But why don't we teach them? So, but dili sa kanang dali buhaton, no? So it's a very complex system and it has to be done, and that's the job of the national government. And then you move it down from the national government, you go down to provincial, and then you have the municipal or city level, and then down to the barangay. We should give more authority and more power to the barangays. Kay sila mismo magatubang sa mga tao kada adlaw. You know how you have somebody in Metro Manila making a decision. Now you may have a barangay, let's say Barangay Makati. You know, well, Makati is a city, so barangay. What's the name of that place in Makati? It's the richest barangay there. Ang barangay mismo pila ka billion ang ilang budget kada tuig. Their issues are different from our issues here. No, you go to Barangay Malubog now. In Barangay Busay, I noticed like many of the graduating students don't have the skills to look for a job or don't have even the incentive to look for a job. We tried interviewing some people to work up here, and then nangutan namin, so unsa may mo plano? Awa man, standby lang ko sa balay. I mean, you know, what kind of answer is that, right? So somebody has to
maminaw ko sa atong storya karon ba, murag imposible magining trabaho sa leader, especially kung let's say for example mayor ka sa syudad or maybe presidente ka og nasod. Murag
lisod.
Kaning tanan nga problema imong gistoryaan ba, they're all happening at the same time. Dili man ka makaingon nga kanina akong sulbaron sa You have to try to figure out how to solve them simultaneously. So
well, that's why sometimes it's not about solving every problem. Kay di gyud na nimo masolbad tanan. Ikaw lang usa. So maybe you need to push it in the right direction and let the problem solve itself. You know, one is awareness. Okay. When people invite me to give lectures at mga university and all that, dili ko mohatag og speech kanang 1-hour speech talking about all the details and all that. And like in the last one I did, I said, I will give you only 2 bits of advice. And if you remember only one, good for you.
But I'm not gonna talk for 1 hour kay musud na sa kadunggan mo gawa sa pikas. So I said, one is execution is key. Brilliance is 10%. Kaya daghan ko kailam, nindot kay mga idea, pero pabuhato na nimo di mabuhat. So execution is key. So always remember that. Whatever you want to do, basta buhata. Ay, sige huna-huna, buhata. You go out there, you try. It's better to make a bad decision than no decision. So action, action, action. That's it. So people will think that, nga, buhaton ako. You know, mangita ko laing trabaho, mangita ko paaging ma-improve ang akong skills, mubalik ko eskwela, mag-online ko eskwela, you know, to improve our skills. That's one. And then the second thing I told them is perception is self-fulfilling. So everybody, di man na ako kaya, og di na, og maghuna-huna ka, dili ni mo kaya, dili yun ni mo kaya. So we have to, one thing my dad did, I remember that, is it said, the success of Cebu is because of the Cebuanos, because the Cebuanos are the best. Kaya na ninyo tanan. And people believed in themselves. And guess what? Cebu boomed. You look at the Chinese. They have that 12 Chinese zodiac signs for every year. If you have 1.3 billion people that think this is bad year, nobody will invest. What do you think will happen to the economy? Huh? Self-fulfilling. If you say it's a good year, then everybody puts out their money, everybody invests. Guess what? It's going to be a good year. So perception is self-fulfilling. So doon na. Take action and believe in yourself. Because I believe in you. If you don't, well, that's not my fault because I believe in you.
Pero naam gyud tao mimosa nga kanang mura og lisod gyud pa, like, you know, for example, kanang mga homeless, for example. It's kana bitong kanang motivation, kanang imuhang gisulti.
Yeah, they gave up.
Self-belief.
Yeah.
Kana that's actually I don't know if you can teach that. Maybe you can
That's
teach that
the
to
job of a leader.
I know, to inspire, right?
to
To
inspire.
inspire. Tinood na siya. Pero naagi tao ba nga, bro? I think it's the chemical composition of his brain siguro. Or
Nagyod.
kanang bro, di gyud nakakita, nakaila kong mga ina nga mga tao nga di gyud sila mo lihok ba?
Yeah. There are some na di gyud mo lihok. Unya, doon na sa tayo mga bilyonaryos kalibutan. Because they take action. And so there's always going to be that
spectrum, right?
what do you call that? The curve, di ba?
Pero,
and then the bulk, ang kinabagan mo importante. Kinabagan. Kining mga middle class. So, ang gobyerno, ang ilang focus nga matabang nila ang middle class. Na unsa mangita sila paagi nga matabang dili kay dito lang sa bottom of the pack, because the bottom of the pack will always be there no matter what we do. Like minimum wage. Everyone say minimum wage. Why are you earning minimum wage? Because you're at the bottom of the pack. It's supply and demand. There's no job. You need a job. So you get a job. So you get the minimum because you don't have the skills. If you have the skills, you can get a job in the BPO and they pay 3 times minimum wage. What happens? Say, di man gud kasabot mga tao og dublehon nato ang minimum wage. Kasabot man ko nga ganahan gyud sila nga mutaas ang ilang sweldo kay mahal na kay mga butang. Pero og dublehon nimong minimum wage, ang mahitabo ana ang kining mga negosyo labi ng mga gagmay, mga dago may problema patason na nila ang ilang produkto, presyo sa ilang produkto. Ang mga gagmay di na sila ka-hire. Unless nga patasan sa nila ang presyo sa ilang produkto or serbisyo. So ang automatic is when you double minimum wage, inflation will kick in and everything will be expensive. So unsay mahitabo? Bisag doble ng imong income, ang tanang mga butang doble sad. So magsige lang ka gukod. So gihuna-una gyud nako, wa gyud solution nga lain nga mabuhat ana other than one is we improve the education system so mas daghan ang ilang skills so they can get a better job, but there's still those at the bottom of the pack. Bisag unsaon nimo di gyud na sila. So we have to do social services.
You know, Winston Churchill once said that democracy is the worst form of government except for everything else, right? Dugay na kaning mga problema atong hisgutan, Mimo, niya paghuman bataanin mo na ning problema kabalik-balik lang nitag istorya ni mo kung ato ni adado na tong istorya 20 years ago parihar gyapon ning istorya. Do you really think that democracy is still the best game in town as far as we are concerned, or are we ready for a kind of hybrid?
The best form of government is a dictatorship with a benevolent dictator, which is hard to get because power, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah. So you think that's the best kind of government?
Yeah, somebody who knows. I mean, when Dad was governor, they used to call him the Nazi dictator of Cebu.
Really? No, I didn't hear that. I didn't
Yeah,
hear
because
that.
of the German ancestry, right?
Okay, okay.
So he's the Nazi dictator of Cebu. And then what he said, they said something and yang Tobago's boat mo.
So I know you said that half jokingly, but namo gyud mga, let's say, countries like kanang social democracy bitaw.
Yeah,
Nga,
yeah. Well, that's what I was explaining.
Yeah, yeah.
That the realistic solution is tabangon na tong middle class. Pabag-an na tong middle class. Let's focus our efforts there. And so, through them, ug mulambo na sila, mas dakog buwis ang madawat nato. Mo nang atong gamiton ngadto sa ubos. Na social service, dili handouts. We give them, maybe medical is free, and then, basic food is free. I mean, they have what they call the universal wages, that everybody gets a minimum income. But you don't want the whole population to be collecting minimum income like in the case of communism, where everybody's equal. Everybody gets the same pay whether you work or not. The only people who work are people who are altruistic. Like, I do these programs, all this, not because I benefit from it, because I don't need anything anymore at my point in life. I do it to help enlighten people so that we can move our society into the right direction, to be aware, to be enlightened. And so we need to find ways to move the majority of population towards that level. I mean, we keep saying, if you ask somebody, I ask people, unsa may objective nimo, to live a comfortable life. Unsay pasabot nimo nga comfortable life? Na nakoy balay, na nakoy sakyanan. Unsay sakyanan? Toyota Vios. Then you approach it after 10 years, ganahan ako kanang SUV. After 10 years, ganahan ako Porsche. I mean, sige man nagsakasaka, di ba? So, what do you mean by comfortable, People say, why don't you have a Ferrari? I'm like, I don't need a Ferrari. I've already, I just need my...
I'll have one.
Okay, can you imagine once a Ferrari?
Huh? Yeah, it's a Ferrari.
Yeah.
I mean, I said, I'd rather build a car because kana malingaw ko. I built a car that did 0 to 100 in 1.8 seconds.
But how do you think we can accomplish that with a democracy, or do you need to combine with different kinds of ways?
Yes, you were saying social democrat. So I think that's the solution, the social democrat system. If you look at, I had this discussion last night with my fiancée, who, by the way, I'm getting married next week.
Wow, congratulations. Oh my God, really now? Yeah. Thank you for spending time with us. In spite of the fact that you're getting ready for your sound effects, man.
Sound effects.
Where's the sound effects? What happened, man?
So anyway, she was
congratulations.
watching this documentary on how, I think it was Denmark, how Denmark has progressed towards having a clean environment, and how they were, people go around bicycles and it's very safe, and all this different countries in Europe that are the same way. And I said, that's because they were rich to begin with. Okay, wa magi problema og naay kwarta. Kasi mahal na kay mga mabutang. So ang problema dili kay mahal ang butang, ang problema kay way kwarta kay ug daghang pagkakwarta, way mahal mo na sila dito, wa sila ay problema nga maghimo sila green energy and all that, kay sila nakaagi na sila industrialization, kita wala pa. So kaya gihunong na tan, dili, we cannot go into that. We have to be conscious of our environment. We have to proceed this way, kay sila human na.
Benefit is a few.
Yeah, they
fuel,
already
right?
benefited from it. They produced it. They got the industry. They made the money. Yeah, kita. No, you cannot. You should already contribute na parehas. O tagay may inyong kwarta, tagay may bahin din niya. O pareha tag kana GDP or pareha tag income, they will follow your same rules. May problema.
Correct, yeah. Very interesting. Giingon sila nga katungan mga problema dili kuno ni masulbad kay ang politician kuno kaning maglisod na og palit kung ang mga tao kaning bright na o naanay kwarta.
Oh, then
Grabe kay ni cynical nga point of view ba. So they're saying these problems of ours that we have been talking about for the entire hour will never be solved because naako ni mga politician nag-ingon nga dili mapalit na to ang mga botante og dili na to mailad kay edukado naman.
Ngano ilaron man nimo og sakto sa dang imong buhaton og tarong sa kang klaseng tao dali ra man ka og makasabot ang kaning tao dali ra kay ma-elect.
Ah.
Diba? Mo ni akong plano, mo ni akong plataporma, mo ni akong buhaton. Nga makita sa mga tao, away problema bisag di ka mo hatag og kwarta. Mura na sila kulto nga mosunod nimo. Look at look at the issues going on in Mindanao, di ba? Yeah, they all believe in him. He doesn't have to pay them.
So, importante na nga kaning sakto sa imong kasing-kasing, right? Sakto,
Yeah.
your heart is also in the right place, but that's
Well, again, it's a combination. Dili ka usa lang. One is heart, one is mind, other is luck. Then the next thing is your friends. Kaya ikaw lang usa. I can't do anything. I mean, all I can do is tell people about it, help them get awareness. But I'm gonna have a hard time being elected.
Okay, sir. Let's bring this conversation back to Cebu City. You have the benefit of being the son of Lito Osmena, and you have the benefit of being able to see Cebu from tops, from where we are now, and see Cebu progress to where it is now. Imong pananaw, sir, are we going to the right direction? Sakto bang ato ang direksyon sa Cebu City, or maybe even Cebu in general for that matter? What do you think, sir?
I think that's the wrong question to ask.
What's the right question to ask?
I think the question should be is, where should we be in 20 years? Or where should we be in 30 years? So that's where you really have to look at the vision of where Cebu is going to go, or where Cebu is capable of going. As you know, ang kining atong Metro Cebu saturated na. Grabe na kayong traffic tungod sa kadaghan sa mga tao. So, daghan ang mga tactical solutions. So, lain ang strategy, lain sa ang tactic. No, ang kanang tactic, mo nang giingon nila nga short-term solutions. But we cannot do the long-term solutions kay long-term na. Ang short-term ray makasolbad ang mga problema. So, for instance, we need some sort of a public transport system that can alleviate the traffic by reducing the number of cars, by providing convenience in some other method. Kaya ang problema, og mas daghan ang sakyanan sa daan, matraffic yun. Pero og mas daghan ang daan sa sakyanan, why traffic? Mo na ini ka-holiday or na boxing match si Pacquiao, why traffic? Mo na mag-boxing siya, mananghin ako daan, man, mo tanaw lang ko sa replay, kay musuroy ko syudad, kay why traffic? Yeah? So, public transport. Then, if you want to build a system nga, daghan man ang mga solusyon nga ilang ipanggawas diha nga, himotag ka ng subway, pwedeng mahala. So, maghimo kag subway, ang plate pwede sang mahal. Nakaadto na magkagongkong, gikan sa airport, na sila high-speed train pa doon mo. Ang imong bayad, 700 pesos. Kisa may makabayad og 700, nga imong minimum wage, 500 na. Mahurot ng 1,000 nimo ni round trip, gikan sa imong trabaho. So, dili na siya solution. Or, go on atong dan kay maghimo tag transport system. I'm sorry, but the system they're proposing here now, I don't think will work. Second is maghimo tag elevated highway. O sana. So you have to find a system that addresses the problem, or you develop Balamban and everybody moves to Balamban, no? So ma-reduce ang traffic sa Cebu City. You know, I mean, those are tactical solutions. But long term, you have to look at examples in other countries. Like we were talking about Denmark, na magbisikleta na lang sila. Even before we get there, it's like our traffic system here. One thing that we haven't learned here that can be done through a public information system, through our programming, is road courtesy. I was in San Francisco during the big earthquake. All the power was out, all the traffic lights were dead. What may problema? Kay pag-abot sa intersection, puli-puli man, take turns. Dini sa ato kay mag-ilog. Kaya umuhata ka, and I try all the time, I try nga, mag-courtesy ko, nga hatagon ako, inikahatag na ako susad, di na ako kusod. How come in Subic, makabuhat man sila ana, di ba? So, dili sa disiplina. Tungod kay ana da, it's the term there, it's the numbers theory, you know.
Let me just interrupt for a little bit. Ang problema mo sa Cebu, Mimo, is that we're central, right? And yung kadaghanan sa itong mga taga diri,
Yes.
half of us are not from Cebu.
Yeah.
Mga transient ba, katrabaho, gaskwela.
Yeah.
So what ay one culture bitaw sakto ba nga assessment unya na ba nay solusyon ng inana nga problema?
Yeah, which was the promptly solution nga. Ibalik. You put the business imbis nga ri sa Cebu City ang trabaho, ibalhin na tong trabaho dito sa gawas. That's the long-term solution.
Sa gawas sa Cebu, you mean?
Yeah, outside of Cebu City.
Oh.
Like, taga-Barili ka. Magbutang tag-negosyo din. Like right now, you don't have to be here in Cebu City in TAPS. You can put this transmitter here and then just do Wi-Fi connection to your place and then you can work from there.
Correct.
Right? Like Nanding Celeste na Asia's Badyan, ako din hikos busay sa Malubog, na ako sa Malubog ron. Unya makatransmit ta pinaagi sa Facebook. Unya ang Facebook ngadto sa stasyon sa Giholngan. So that's the technology. So we use technology. Ang problema lang ug magpuyo kog badyan ug nakoy adtoon sa Manila, mangita pa kog airport, layo kayong airport, di ba? 3 hours ra gyapon, so I have the same problem. So we used to have a train system here in Cebu from Karkar to Danao. There was a railway sa una. Then they said, ang solution niya mga bus kay mas baratong bus, mas kusog mo dagan. Kaniadto karon murag mas efficient na utag mo balik tag train.
Yeah, that was actually an interesting fun fact that I just knew about a few years ago. Nga, naam na the train system at
Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to see the railway when we used to drive to Bourbon.
Very interesting. And like I said, Mimo, magmaan gyud storya ani kay ako.
No, we can continue this.
Grabe gyud sig pangutan, daghan gyud pangutan. I'm just normally very curious person, and I think we should do this show regularly. Hopefully, madunggan sa kahanginan sa kanang mga FM radio sets sa 105.1 and then of course here sa atong podcast sa makitaan man siya sa YouTube. Sa asa ni makitaan Kuya Magic? YouTube, Facebook, right? Asa pa? Lahat.
TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter.
Wow. So
Not Threads.
not
Not
Threads.
yet.
Not yet.
There's no hardly.
So
Probably good.
So you're getting married next week. I hope that's not the end of you. What I mean is of you as a broadcaster. I hope you'll still have time to join us here in
No, she's my partner here anyway. So.
Okay, all right. But I'm sure you're gonna have like a long honeymoon, right? And all
No.
that stuff. Okay.
We've been together for 6 years.
Okay, fine. So I hope to do.
She's going out with her family and friends.
Okay.
I can come here.
Okay, fine. That's good. That's good to hear. Maybe we can do this show on a regular basis. Hopefully with the same setup, with the chat group and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
First ever one.
What's that? What's that?
Ug doon na
First one.
Yeah.
ug doon na mo yung mga pangutana bisag unsang topic. So ayun na to tubag din nga malamdagan yun mo.
Malamdagan. Kanang unsa in English anong lamdag?
Enlighten.
Dili sa related to the word woke, right? Or awaken, right?
No, it's different because
Ma-awaken ka ba?
sometimes when you answer somebody, if you ask me like what's blood type, and my answer will be humans, we have in our blood there are 4 basic types. There's A, there's B, there's AB, and there's O. That's answering tubag. But malamdagan ka, so you say ang kanang atong dugo na siya ka ng mga antibodies nga mubasa na mo tanaw na siya unsay makasud sa imong lawas niya dunay antigen. Ang kanang antigen mangita na siya og dunay dugo nga mosud sa imong lawas niya dili parehas inigtan-aw niya dili parehas mo kontra na siya mo away na siya mao nang dili kakahatag og type B sa type A kay ang type A nikita ni lahi man ni di man ni parente nako kontra man ni nako so iyang awayhon so mo na kinahanglan nga makapili kag dugo nga parehas nimo niya ang there's also the RH factor no plus and negative so you explain the whole process so that people will say, mao din na kasabot naging ko nalamdagan ako.
Nalamdagan ka. So dili lang kay nakahibaw siya nga nganong na types nalamdagan siya meaning to say he understands the story.
The whole picture.
On a deeper level.
Yeah, deeper level. Yeah, you're enlightened. So when we talk about like
katong illegal drugs. Well, pasabtan sa nato unsa ning mga drugs niya, unsa ang mga klaseng drug niya, ngano illegal man siya.
in the first place.
Yeah, before you then say, mao din na, so sakto no, so alcohol drug din na, ang kanang asukar drug din na.
Kape, a drug din
Kape, caffeine.
na. Grabe kay mga pe ay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, coffee is like my my morning drug.
Yeah. So I try not to put any sugar in my coffee.
Oh no, it's like the beans, the water, the this, so that.
So no sugar also.
No need sugar because sugar destroys the taste, the flavor, the bouquet.
Correct. So imong sugar sa chocolate drugs, mga pastries.
Yeah. Tira-tira. Tira-tira.
Tira ginagmay ni dagko na dagay ko imong tapokon. Okay, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Mimo Osmena. We're gonna do this one as often as we can, as often as Mimo is available here. He just lives nearby the studio, so I hope I can see him here more often.
I've got a shop here, so I'm always here too.
Yeah, he's got a restaurant here. It's called Mimo's Grill, right?
Yeah.
So what's going on with Mimo's Grill these days?
Well,
Mimo?
we just came up with a new formulation for a new product, but I don't think I want to sell it here.
Oh, why not?
Because nobody's gonna eat anything else in my store.
So what's the best? What's the best seller at Mimo's right now?
I think it's the barbecued pork belly.
Okay,
It's always been number one.
We love that. Yeah, you like that. You like that, right?
Yeah.
Kuya Magic loves that.
Yeah, well, I used to love it as a kid growing up, so I was always looking for it. I'm like, why don't they serve it? And I tried places and it didn't taste right. So I said, why don't I just develop the formulation myself? Since my first job was a cook. I was 17. I was a cook.
Wow.
So I developed the formula and made sure that the recipe is duplicated or kept so that we can replicate the same thing consistently.
Whose recipe are you replicating? Is it your dad's recipe?
No, it's my own. I just mixed it.
Because you mentioned man good nga na kay barbecue nga tilon nga ganahan jud ka.
One new one, that one's newly invented.
You're talking about yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I invented a new.
I thought naka natilawan before niya. Dili jud ka makakita to anywhere else or something.
No, there were some. There's like famous restaurants that we tried the food. Nga grabe gyud pagkalami. Yeah, we tried to copy it, and I was able to get the formulation down, but not exactly the same. But the one I just did recently on chicken, I'm craving for it now. I didn't get enough, so I need to cook it again. But it's so much work. Grabe ang trabaho. So many ingredients. I should bring some here for you guys to try.
Please do, so we can talk about it here while we're doing the show. Asa ang location sa Mimo's Grill? Asa dapita? Mimo's Grill. Asa dapita sa Tops? Third level, second level?
Well, it's ground and second.
Ground and
it's
second.
2 floors, man.
So in Igsodi mo sa Tops, right side,
Right
right?
side. Right side.
Okay, you can't miss that.
I'm always in the one in Taranban.
Talamban. Anong Talamban mo
Well,
ka?
we shut that down.
The one with the fireplace.
You shut it down, the Talamban branch?
Because that was COVID.
Banilad, is it Banilad?
Banilad.
The Banilad one. No, it's like just by the school by the USC.
Yeah, it was Talamban. It was actually there in the border, but
No more now?
no, we had to close it down during the pandemic.
But they have to come up all the way to Tops to taste great barbecue.
Come and see us. Yeah. Tastes better with the sky.
Yeah, it tastes better with the fog, right? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Woohoo! Our first episode of Lamdag here at Tops Media Center. How long was it, man?